Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now, as you know, I offer myself as a resource to you gentlemen who want to bounce an idea off somebody else. Maybe somebody who's lived a bit of a life, who enjoys the sartorial things and can offer you some uncly advice along the way. And that's exactly what I'm going to do today, because a gentleman called Shaunt has written to me. And basically this is what he says. I'll tell you his conundrum and then I'll explain in brief terms how I would deal with this. So he tells me that it's the first time he's written to me and he is looking, I'll speak in his words. I'm looking to break away from the traditional evening dress and invest a bit more modestly in a pair of semi-formal or formal trousers, the cashmere striped trouser type to be more specific, to include in my ensemble of clothing. I have attached an elegant smoking jacket from Walker Slater in black that I'm hoping to pair with the trousers that I'm seeking your advice with today. I intend to wear this ensemble during the Christmas rotation of restaurants, New Year's Eve outings, and perhaps when I'm feeling elegant, all dressed up and nowhere to go, sipping on some digestifs at home. Let's have a look. What does it say? My decision hinges on you weighing in on the better complement to the jacket. I trust your aesthetic decisions implicitly. Well, thank you, Shaunt, for having such confidence in my decisions. But I remind you, I'm an ordinary man. And I also remind you that you can wear whatever you like. Now, I'm going to make some observations which perhaps are contrary to the direction that you were taking in. But remember, these are merely my views, and you wear what you want, how you want. Let's for a moment look at the jacket that you have sent me the images of, and it looks absolutely splendid. What we are looking at is Walker Slater, of course, is a British-oriented company selling, it's an outfitter basically. I think they do some made-to-measure work as well, of what I would call quite traditional gentleman's clothing. They're well known for their tweed. I've been in their store just near Covent Garden in London, and it is an absolute panoply of excellence. There's some wonderful things in there. They keep the prices fairly approachable in comparison to some of their bigger cousins, not terribly far away in London, in places like Savile Row and Jermyn Street, because they offshore their manufacturing. So I know a lot of the tweed and other items are made in places like Portugal. So it keeps the prices less expensive than the British-made stuff in Savile Row, obviously. What you've sent me the image of, though, is what I would describe as a velvet smoking jacket. Now, I've looked on the Walker Slater website. This could be purchased for £395 as I speak, which seems an approachable price for a garment of this standard. And, yep, it's... When I say a smoking jacket, people say, what does that mean? What is a smoking jacket these days? Well, the origins of this type of jacket go back to the 18th, 19th century. And that is clear. So I'm looking at an image of it here. It's clear when you look at it, really. These days, that type of jacket is more associated with the sort of dandy tradition of people who prefer to dress in a somewhat more avant-garde style than the modern contemporary style. We often conjure images of Sherlock Holmes lounging in Baker Street or other aristocratic wearers of this type of garment when we think of it. But basically what we're looking at is, in essence, a double-breasted style velvet jacket, and its standout features for me are the fact that it has a shawl lapel, so the nice sweeping shawl lapel, always more elegant on evening wear, in my opinion. The most outstanding feature of the garment are the closure of the jacket. They're called frog closures. Now, these harken back to the sort of traditional uniform of military officers, the hussars particularly, and this was the way that their uniforms, somewhat flamboyant, somewhat romantic as they would have been. When you look at images of people of that era, you imagine, or you wouldn't like to imagine fighting in such uniforms, but it was all about pomp and splendor and demonstrating one's status and prowess in the clothing that you wear. And that is kind of exemplified in this garment by those double frog closures with the ornate swirls, the buttons and so on, which which actually give a great deal of character to the outfit. And there's lots of contrasting piping around the edging of the shawls, on the cuffs, top of the pockets, and actually in those frog closures as well. There's a lot to look at. This is very much a statement garment, and when you wear this, you are wearing something which, yes, you can see within it those militaristic throwbacks, the Orientalist appearance as well with those frog closures. There's something of the Far East about this garment, and yeah, I mean, I like it. I don't own one, but I have to admit, many times I've walked past places like New and Lingwood in the Burlington Arcade, places like that, and I have admired greatly these garments. How you could wear them easily, harder to say. How would you wear it? That is a valid question to have. It is a very rich and outstandingly visually apparent garment when you wear it, right? So velvet in itself, less commonly seen these days, very opulent in its appearance. And with those statement features on it, it affects the way that you could wear this garment. So let's talk about how we could wear it in the modern world. So it's not a formal dinner jacket, all right? So if you have an invitation from somebody who will say, you know, evening wear required, maybe you're going to the annual works dinner where the president or the CEO will be holding court. That is not the occasion to wear a jacket like this. This is not formal dining. This is somewhere which I would describe as semi-formal evening wear, because formal dining obviously requires your tuxedo or black tie, as we would call it here in the Western world. For me, this is something which you would wear maybe to a more relaxed dinner party or a gala evening, which clearly we're not on our highest level of attire. The standard is relaxed. We can get away with wearing things which are a little bit more exciting because, as I say, this is a statement dinner jacket. It is not what I would call a traditional dinner jacket. Now, other times you'll get invited to events and clearly stated on the invitation, they will say creative black tie or festive black tie. Now, when you see that written on an invite or the email which invites you to go along to this event, that means you can go nuts, all right? This is where you would wear a jacket like this, your smoking jacket. Or I would wear, my velvet shawl collared dinner jacket that I save for such events. Other people have embroidered what you would call festive black tie. Coloured dinner jackets, anything other than black, right? This is where you are allowed to, what I was not even allowed, encouraged to let your flamboyance come to the fore and peacock for the evening, dress up very smart, put on those garments you probably only get to wear once a year. And you would basically, you swap your tuxedo for this jacket. That's what you would wear instead. And the final area in which I would suggest this jacket will see most wear would be exactly as you described in your communication to me. Those restaurants or outings or evening gatherings when you're amongst friends. You're going to a friend's house, they've invited you to a dinner, amongst family or very close friends, and this is where there's no strict adherence to any dressing code. You can wear what you like, or if you're entertaining in your own home, of course. If you're having people in and you want to raise the tone, this is something that you could wear because there's no standards, there's no rules, regulations, implicit or implied. This is what you could wear in a place like that. And don't forget, you don't have to keep it highly formal. A garment like this, you often, I have seen people wearing turtleneck sweaters under them. It's not necessarily only to be worn with a tuxedo style shirt or a Marcella shirt, or an embroidered shirt or a ruffled shirt at the front. You could actually wear, a turtleneck or a polo neck sweater, maybe even an ordinary collar and tie if you want to tone it down a little. But if it's in your own home, of course, you can dress as you wish. You can keep it quite casual. Now, I love the jacket and we've talked about how you can wear it. But the reality of your question to me, or the majority of it, was about the trousers that you would pair with it. And you sent me 2 images of trouser material which you were thinking about having made to accompany the ensemble in which this jacket will clearly be the star of the show. And what you've sent me is a couple of images of cashmere striped trouser material. Now what you've sent me is actually exactly that, cashmere trousers. We tend to call them here in the UK. But in truth, these would be trousers which we would refer to as court trousers, because they tend to be worn with our most formal level of attire. I own 2 pairs of these trousers because I've been to a number of events and investitures where it's necessary to wear, you know, a black director's coat, tailcoat, and these would typically be the trousers that you would wear with such an outfit. Morning dress, right? So either that worn at something like a funeral, often worn in a funeral. I mean, I work in the funeral industry, as I've mentioned a few times. I'm a funeral celebrant. I lead this non-denominational services for people who wish to have a funeral which doesn't have a religious leaning. And all of the undertakers, you know, they will wear their black tailcoats and they will wear the cashmere striped trouser or the morning trouser or the court trouser, as we tend to call them. So this is where this trouser is often worn. If you're getting married in the morning, i.e. before 12 noon, here in the UK, it's common to wear morning dress, and you would wear these trousers with typical morning dress. If you're going to Ascot, Royal Ascot, the racecourse, where everybody dresses up, if you go into the royal enclosure, you will be expected to wear a top hat, tails, and trousers of this nature, morning trousers or cashmere striped trousers. So this is, and the term morning, this is day wear or formal day wear, typically worn before noon. So this is where we would ordinarily see these trousers. Do you see where I'm going with this? We are in conflict with where you intend or how you intend to wear your jacket. Because for me, your smoking jacket is a garment which will ordinarily be worn in the evening, at home, in less formal situations. For me, it is incongruous that you marry the type of trousers that you are considering at the moment with this type of jacket. It is, in essence, an informal jacket which, in one's outfit, takes the place of a more formal garment like a dinner suit or dinner jacket or a tuxedo, as you may call it if from North America. So really, the normal route to take with the garment, your smoking jacket, would be tuxedo trousers. You would normally wear black dinner trousers, you know, with the velvet stripe down the inseam, down the outside seam of the leg. That is what would typically be worn with a jacket that you've described here and you're showing us. The alternative could be something like just black woolen trousers, so dress trousers, flannel trousers, you know, dark grey, dark blue, whatever complements, and having a black jacket does allow you a bit of leeway because there's quite a few colours which will sit alongside it. Or even if you want to go nuts, velvet trousers in the same fabric. If you want to match them up, I'm sure it's possible, but you know, something which will be very bold in the outfit. But really and truly, the cashmere striped trousers, morning trousers, court trousers, whatever you want to call it, it's not traditionally what you would wear with the jacket that you have demonstrated in your images to me. They are at opposite ends of the attire spectrum. One, the trousers worn with perhaps the most formal suit of clothing that most people will wear. To give you an example, the last time I wore my cashmere striped trousers, I was fully decked out in my tailcoat, my director's coat, and I was standing in front of the King receiving something from him. At the time he was the Prince of Wales, but during an investiture at Windsor Castle. So that is the level of formality that we're talking about with those trousers. With the jacket you're talking about, opposite end of the spectrum. This is something that we would put in place of a tuxedo or a black tie if we're going to a less formal or slightly festive, more creative event in the evening. But, as I say, I caveat my observations to you here with the underlying, always umbrella viewpoint: you can wear whatever you want when you want. You've clearly identified those trousers as being aesthetically pleasing to your eye because you like the look of them. You might have seen them maybe in Walker Slater, where I know they provide clothing for people at Royal Ascot and other such events. So you might have looked at them and thought, I'm drawn to them. I've seen them in images. They seem to be quite smart, quite elegant, and of course they are because of their formality level. I would like to pair them with the jacket. I get where you're coming from, but I think you need to rethink it. A really good thing to do is to go on online sites like Pinterest and the like and draw up images of people wearing the garment that you have or you're thinking of buying and see what they have chosen to wear alongside it. Go on the websites of reputable tailoring houses, cordings, places like that, any of the Savile Row houses, and see in the model shots what the men modeling the smoking jackets are wearing as their trousers. And it'll give you an idea of what the normal societal expectation would be with that choice of garment. That's not to say you can't go off on your own tangent. You're clearly a man who chooses to dress differently and in your own style, individualistic, and that is to be commended. But I'm just here to put the facts on the table so that you can make an informed decision about how you choose to dress. And Shaunt, I hope my advice has been of some help for you today. Now don't forget folks, if you're sitting out there with some sort of tailoring conundrum, my email is on the screen. I'd be delighted to hear from you, and I can only offer my observations. I'm not an expert, I'm just an ordinary chap, and I can give you my thoughts. Simple as that. If you've enjoyed the video, like it, subscribe to see more like this. If you want to come on the journey with me and have more exclusive content, you can become one of my patrons. The link to my Patreon page is in the show notes below. You can join it for free. I do give an element of free material, but for a tiny monthly fee, and you can select your own point that you'd like to come in at, you can have the extra exclusive material several times a week that I produce especially for my valued and esteemed patrons. So until the next time we meet, looking forward to the smoking jacket when you get to wear it out. I will see you all again very soon.
I'm tired of waiting. How long have I been waiting here to hear the sound of